Hello everyone, welcome back to VIII. Today I bring before you the lesson plan for the chapter called Resources for Social Science of Class 8. If you're new to my channel, please click on the subscribe button because I provide lesson plans for social science and English and contents related to VIII. So without any further ado, let's get started. So the first section for every lesson plan starts with the identification of data. In this part, you have to mention the name of the school where you are teaching in, the name of the subject, lesson, class, the number of students, your own name, and the duration of the class as well as the date. The next part is called the general objectives. So let me read out all the objectives that I have written here. Number 1, to develop social competence and to adjust with changing social environment. Number 2, to develop rational and scientific thinking. Number 3, to develop the understanding of interdependence of man and environment. Number 4, to develop qualities of good citizenship. Next comes the teaching aids. Here there are two parts. There are two types of teaching aids. The first one is general aids and the second one is specific aids. So the examples of general aids are blackboard, chalk, duster, pointer, textbook, etc. And the examples of specific aids, here I have written that a chart showing the main parts of the lesson, because when I was teaching I used the diagrams, or I made some diagrams myself which could help the students understand what's in the lesson. The next part is the introduction. So in this part you have to make 4 columns, one for step, for assume previous knowledge, for teacher's activity and pupil's activity. So usually in this part what we do is that we start to teach the chapter, but before that we have to tell the name of the lesson to the students. But even before that, before actually telling the name of the lessons, we have to test the previous knowledge of the students. And how do we do that? We go on asking questions to the students and make them able to guess the name of the chapter by themselves. So in the second column you can see is written assume previous knowledge. I'm going to read out what I have written there so that there will be no difficulty for you to follow my handwriting, or in case it's not very clear for you. So it's written, it is assumed that the pupils have some previous knowledge about the topic. And for teacher's activity it is written, after entering the classroom, the teacher will arrange the class properly, and then in order to motivate the students, the teacher will ask some questions to them. If you look at pupils' activity, it is written, students will try to answer the questions. The questions that you're going to ask the students will be included under the column of teacher's activity. So the first question I have written is, what is the basic need of human being? That's the first question. And the answer to the question is mentioned alongside it but under the column of pupils' activity. So the answer to the first question is food, shelter, clothing, etc. Second question, besides these basic needs, can you name a few others? And the answer is electricity, vehicles, water, etc. Third question, what is the need of vehicles in our life? The answer is they help us reach one place to another. Fourth question, do these things have value in our life? And the answer is yes, they have. The fifth and the last question, what are these things which satisfy our needs and hold values in our lives called? I'm going to repeat it. What are these things which satisfy our needs and hold value in our lives called? And the answer is resources. So as you can see, the students have reached the last answer, and the last answer actually is the name of the lesson. So now we reach the part called the announcement of the topic. So under this I have written, the teacher will then announce the topic before the students in the class as, now we are going to discuss the lesson resources. The teacher will write the name of the topic on the blackboard and tell the students to open their respective books and notebooks. The next part is called presentation. Here you have to make 6 columns, one for step, teaching point, specific objectives, teacher's activity, pupil's activity, and learning outcomes. So under the column of teaching point, the first point that I have written is definition of resources. So its specific objective is the students will be able to state about resources. Okay, and the teacher's activity includes the teacher will define resources. Anything that can be used to satisfy needs is called resources. The pupil's activity is that the students will listen attentively. The learning outcome is the students will be able to define resources. So that was it for the first point. And the second point, the teaching point, is in how many ways resources can be classified as. This was a question. The specific objective for this would be the students will be able to state how many ways resources can be classified into. And the teacher's activity for this is the teacher will explain that resources can be classified into number 1 natural, number 2 man-made, number 3 human. The pupil's activity is that the students will listen attentively, and the learning outcome says the students will be able to explain how many ways resources have been classified into. The next teaching point below that is the definition of natural resources. So the specific objective for this is the students will be able to define natural resources. Under teacher's activity, you have to write the teacher will define natural resources. Resources that are drawn by nature are called natural resources. And for pupils' activity, you have to write the students will listen attentively. Again, the same. And for learning outcomes, it says the students will be able to define natural resources. Very easy. The next paragraph that you should write under teacher's activity is after the explanation, the teacher will ask some questions. So actually this is the part where the teacher starts asking questions after the explanation of the chapter. And here are the questions. As you can see, the first question is give some examples of biotic resources, and the answer is mentioned under the column of pupils activity alongside the question. So the answer is plants, animals, etc. Second question, what do you mean by man-made resources? The answer is resources that are made or given by man are called man-made resources. Third question, give some examples of man-made resources. And the answer is buildings, roads, vehicles, machinery, etc. And last but not the least comes the part called closure. So here you have to prepare 3 columns. The first one for step, next for teacher's activity, and the next pupils activity. So under pupils activity, here I have written the teacher will briefly summarize the main points of the lesson and then will ask for the following questions for evaluation. Pupils activity says the students will listen carefully and try to answer the questions. So you may have understood that closure is the part where you summarize the whole chapter, you ask a few more questions, and maybe give homeworks to the students. Here I have included some questions and I'm going to read it out for you. I'm sorry it doesn't look very clear, but okay, I'm going to read it out for you. The first question is, what are biotic and abiotic resources? And you have to write the answer to that under the column of pupils activity. So the answer is biotic resources are living, while abiotic resources are non-living. The second question, what are ubiquitous resources? And the answer is resources that are found everywhere are called ubiquitous resources. So those are the 2 questions and answers. And after that, you have to change the paragraph under teacher's activity and write, after the evaluation of today's lesson, the teacher will give homework. And the homework here comes in the form of a question that you can ask your students to write the answer for. So it is, why are humans considered special resources? Let me repeat, why are humans considered special resources? So that's the homework. And after that, I have written, then the teacher will erase the blackboard and leave the classroom, which means after you give your students the homework, you just erase the blackboard, thank them, and leave the classroom. And with this, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to share with your friends and subscribe to my channel. I'll be bringing more lesson plans for English and social science, so please subscribe and stay tuned.